The great chamber of the Galactic Council had stood for 12,000 years. Its walls were made of crystal that sang with the memories of 1,000,000 decisions. Species from across the galaxy had gathered here to make laws, settle disputes, and maintain the careful balance that kept civilization alive. Today, they gathered for war. High Arbiter Velonis stood at the center of the chamber. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His silver skin had faded to gray, and his 4 eyes had seen empires rise and fall. But he had never seen anything like the humans. They had appeared from nowhere just 2 centuries ago. A young species from a small planet in an unimportant corner of the galaxy. At first, the Council had ignored them, let them play with their primitive ships and their tiny colonies. They would learn their place eventually. But the humans did not learn their place. They grew. They spread. They built weapons that made older species nervous. And now they had expanded into 3 new star systems in just 10 years, claiming worlds that the Council had marked for future development. It was too much. "Bring in the human ambassador," Velonis commanded. The doors opened, and Ambassador Bake Sora walked in. She was a small woman, with black hair and calm eyes. She wore the simple gray uniform of the Terran diplomatic corps. No jewelry, no decoration. She looked almost plain compared to the colorful representatives around her. But Velonis had learned not to judge humans by their appearance. There was something behind those calm eyes. Something that did not bend. "Ambassador Bake," Velonis said, "you know why you have been summoned." "I do," she replied. Her voice was steady. "Then you know that the Council has reached a decision regarding your species' aggressive expansion." Sora said nothing. She simply waited. Velonis felt a flash of irritation. Other species would be begging by now, promising to be good, asking for mercy. But this human just stood there like she was waiting for a bus. "The Galactic Council hereby issues the following ultimatum to the Terran Empire," Velonis announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "First, you will immediately stop all colonization efforts. Second, you will surrender your advanced weapons technology to Council oversight. Third, you will accept permanent Council supervision of your military forces. You have 30 standard cycles to comply." He paused to let the weight of his words sink in. "And if we refuse?" Sora asked. "Then the combined fleet of the Galactic Council will take action. Over 10,000 warships from 23 species will ensure your compliance. Your empire will be dismantled. Your worlds will be occupied. Your species will be placed under permanent restriction." Velonis leaned forward. "There is no scenario in which you win. Ambassador, accept these terms. Save your people from destruction." The chamber fell silent. Every eye watched the small human woman. Surely now she would understand. Surely now she would submit. Sora looked at Velonis for a long moment. Then she nodded once, very slightly. "I will relay your terms to Chancellor Kim," she said. And then she turned and walked out. Velonis stared after her. That was it? Ambassador Kethris, a tall being with blue scales and a nervous disposition, hurried to Velonis's side. "High Arbiter, what do you think they will do?" "They will submit," Velonis said. "They have no choice." But even as he said it, he felt a cold uncertainty in his chest. 12 hours later, on the other side of the galaxy, Chancellor Kim Yuna received the Council's message. She sat in her office in the capital city of New Seoul on Terra Prime. Outside her window, the city glittered with lights. 50 million people lived here, working and dreaming and building the future. Beyond the city, across the planet, 8 billion more. And beyond the planet, across 3 star systems, another 4 billion humans had made their homes on new worlds. All of them were now threatened. Yuna read the ultimatum twice. Then she called an emergency meeting of the Imperial War Council. They gathered within the hour. Admiral Park Tae-ho, the supreme commander of the Terran fleet, was the first to arrive. He was a tall man, with gray hair and a face like carved stone. He had spent 40 years in the military, and had never lost a battle. But he had never faced odds like these. Dr. Choi Hana came next. She was the chief strategic analyst, a genius who could see patterns where others saw chaos. She was young for her position, barely 40, but her mind was sharper than anyone else's in the Empire. Commander Yoon Dae-sung arrived last. He ran Imperial intelligence, and he knew secrets that could shake governments. His face never showed emotion. Some people said he had forgotten how to feel. Others said he felt everything but had learned to hide it. Chancellor Kim shared the ultimatum with them. Then she asked the question that would decide humanity's fate. What are our options? Admiral Park spoke first. Militarily, we are badly outnumbered. The combined fleet has over 10,000 ships. We have fewer than 700. Even with our technological advantages, a direct confrontation would be extremely costly. Could we win? Yuna asked. Park hesitated. Unknown. We have weapons they have never seen. We have tactics they do not expect. But their numbers are overwhelming. Dr. Choi leaned forward. The Council expects us to surrender. Their entire strategy is based on that assumption. They have not actually prepared for a real war. Explain, Yuna said. The combined fleet is not a unified force. It is a coalition. 23 different species, with 23 different command styles. Every tactical decision must be approved by representatives from each species. They cannot adapt quickly. They cannot respond to surprise. They are powerful, but slow. Commander Yoon spoke for the first time. I have assets in Council space. The Council members are not united. Several species are unhappy with Velonis's leadership. If the war goes badly for them, those cracks will widen. Chancellor Kim absorbed this information. Then, she asked the question that really mattered. What happens if we accept their terms? Silence fell over the room. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Finally, Admiral Park spoke. Species that submit to Council oversight do not grow. Their technology is frozen. Their expansion is halted. Their culture becomes a museum exhibit. Within a few generations, they fade away. He paused. If we kneel now, humanity ends. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, certainly, we end. Yuna nodded slowly. She stood and walked to the window. The city spread out below her, full of life and light. Her people, her responsibility. I became Chancellor because I swore to protect humanity's future, she said quietly. Not just for today, for all the generations to come. She turned back to face her council. I will not be the leader who surrendered that future, because I was afraid. She straightened her shoulders. We do not accept their terms. We do not kneel. We do not submit. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute certainty. Prepare the fleet. Mobilize our defenses. Call our people to service. And our response to the Council? Admiral Park asked. Chancellor Kim thought for a moment. Then she almost smiled. Tell them, come then. The message reached High Arbiter Velonis on Cycle 29. He read it 3 times. Certain he was missing something. But there was nothing to miss. Just 2 words. Come then. For the first time in his long life, Velonis felt a chill of genuine fear. Not because of the words themselves, but because of what they meant. The humans were not bluffing. They were not negotiating. They were choosing war against impossible odds. They were either insane or they knew something he did not. Either way, he realized, this was going to be much harder than he had thought. The shipyards of Nova Sol hung in orbit above Terra Prime, like a necklace of steel and fire. Day and night, they burned with activity. Welding torches flashed. Engines roared to life. Ships that would have taken months to complete were being finished in weeks. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station and watched his fleet come together. 700 ships. It was not enough. He knew it was not enough, but it was what they had, and he would make it work. Behind him, the door opened. Captain Lee Junho stepped in and saluted. "Admiral, the Eternal Dawn is ready for inspection." Park nodded and followed the younger man to the shuttle bay. Junho was one of his best officers. 35 years old. Brilliant tactician. Absolutely fearless. He had been given command of the flagship for a reason, but Park noticed something different about him today. A hardness in his eyes that had not been there before. "Your family is on Hainam IV," Park said quietly. It was not a question. "My sister," Junho confirmed. "Her husband and 2 children." Park understood. Hainam IV was one of the outer colonies, directly in the path of any council invasion. If war came, it would be one of the first targets. "We will protect them," Park said. Junho looked at him. "With respect, Admiral, I do not need comfort. I need victory." Park almost smiled. This was why he had chosen Junho for the flagship. The Eternal Dawn was a beast of a ship. 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, armored with plates of composite metal that could withstand direct nuclear hits. But what made it special was inside. The weapons the Council had never seen. Gravity lances that could crush a ship like a tin can. Phase disruptors that could shut down shields from 1,000 kilometers away. And deep in the secure weapons bay, locked behind a dozen security protocols, the Prometheus warheads. Park had seen the test footage. He still had nightmares about it. "The crew?" he asked as they walked through the corridors. "Ready to die for the Empire," Junho said simply. "I would prefer they live for it." "So would I. But they are prepared for either." Park inspected the ship from bow to stern. Everything was perfect. The crew was sharp, focused, eager. They knew what was coming. They were not afraid. That night, Park returned to the command station and found Dr. Choi Hana waiting for him. She had dark circles under her eyes. She had not slept in days. "I found something," she said. They went to her analysis center, a room filled with screens and data projections. She pulled up a display of the combined fleet's command structure. 23 species, she said. 23 representatives in their command council. Every tactical decision requires majority approval. "We knew this," Park said. "Yes. But look at the communication patterns." She highlighted a web of connections between ships. They do not have a unified command frequency. Each species uses its own protocols. Information has to be translated and relayed through multiple systems. In a fast-moving battle, their response time is at least 3 minutes slower than ours. Park leaned forward. 3 minutes was an eternity in space combat. Additionally, Hana continued, their fleet doctrine is based on formation warfare. They arrange their ships in preset patterns and advance together. They never break formation. They never improvise. Because breaking formation would require consensus approval, Park realized. Exactly. They are not an army. They are a committee. And committees cannot adapt to chaos. Park stared at the data. A plan was forming in his mind. A terrible, beautiful, desperate plan. "How do we create chaos?" he asked. Hana smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I have some ideas." Across Terran space, the Empire mobilized. Factories that had made consumer goods now made weapons. Universities that had trained scientists now trained soldiers. Citizens who had never thought about war now thought about nothing else. Chancellor Kim Yuna broadcast a message to every world, every station, every ship. "My fellow Terrans," she said, "you know what we face. A force that outnumbers us 15 to 1. An enemy that believes we will kneel because we are small and young and alone." She paused. "They are wrong. Humanity was not born in peace. We came from a world that tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, plagues, predators, natural disasters. We survived them all. We did not just survive. We conquered. We took a hostile planet and made it our home. We took the darkness of space and filled it with light. The Council sees our small numbers and thinks we are weak. They see our short history and think we are primitive. They do not understand what we are. We are the species that never gives up. We are the species that finds a way. We are the species that looks at impossible odds and says, "Watch me." L'univers says, "I will not lie to you. This war will be hard. We will lose people we love. We will face moments when hope seems lost. But I promise you this: we will not surrender our future. We will not let our children grow up in chains. We will fight, and we will win. Because that is what humans do. Stand with me. Stand with each other. Stand for humanity." The response was immediate. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed. People lined up for hours to volunteer. Engineers worked double shifts. Scientists pushed themselves to exhaustion. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to fight. Commander Yoon Dae-sung watched it happen and allowed himself a rare moment of hope, but he had work to do. While others prepared for open battle, he prepared for shadow war. His agents were everywhere. Council space was riddled with them. Diplomats who listened at doors. Merchants who copied data files. Servants who planted bugs in high-security rooms. For decades, Yoon had built this network, never knowing when it would be needed. Now it was needed. Information flowed back to him. Fleet positions, supply routes, communication codes, political tensions. He learned that the Morath Collective was angry about being denied council representation. He learned that the Frelani worlds were tired of being bullied. He learned that even within the council leadership, some voices questioned whether this war was wise. Good. He could use all of it. He also learned about War Chief Tormund, the commander of the combined fleet. Tormund was Korathi, a species known for their strength and their pride. He had never lost a battle. He believed humans were insects to be crushed. He was overconfident. End quote. That was his weakness. Yoon sent a report to Admiral Park. The Admiral read it and nodded slowly. "We can beat him," Park said. "Yes," Yoon agreed. "If we are smart. If we are fast. If we are willing to do things they will not expect. The Council fights with honor. Then we fight to win." On Cycle 29, Chancellor Kim sent humanity's two-word response to the Council. On Cycle 30, the deadline passed. On Cycle 31, the war began. The combined fleet jumped into the Valar system with 10,000 ships. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They expected easy victory. They did not expect Colonel Shin Mirai. She commanded the Valar Defense Force. Just 50 ships against an armada. She knew she could not win. That was not her job. Her job was to buy time and make them bleed. When War Chief Tormund offered her the chance to surrender, she responded by firing every weapon she had. The first shots of the war crossed the void, and the galaxy changed forever. The Valar system burned. War Chief Tormund stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, the Conqueror's pride, and watched the human defense force crumble before him. 50 tiny ships against his 10,000. It was not even a battle. It was an execution. Pathetic. He growled. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. I expected more from these humans. His officers murmured agreement. The Korathi were a proud species, bred for war. They had hoped the humans would provide some sport. Instead, they fled like prey animals. Push forward, Tormund commanded. Destroy their stations. Burn their colony. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Council. The combined fleet advanced in perfect formation, 23 species moving as one. It was a beautiful sight, Tormund thought. This was how war should be fought. With overwhelming force and absolute order, Colonel Shin Mirai watched them come. Her flagship, the Hammer of Dawn, was damaged. Half her fleet was gone. The others were scattered, running for their lives. But she was smiling. "They took the bait," she said. Her communications officer looked at her like she was crazy. "We were always going to lose." That was the plan. She opened a channel to her remaining ships. "All units. Execute. Maneuver 7. Get clear of the asteroid field." Now, the human ships broke off their retreat and scattered in different directions. The Council fleet did not pursue. Why bother? They were already beaten. That was their mistake. Deep in the asteroid field, hidden among the rocks and ice, weapons platforms woke up. Hundreds of them. They had been placed there months ago, waiting for this moment. Gravity lances fired. The effect was immediate and devastating. Council ships in the middle of the formation suddenly crumpled like paper. Their hulls collapsed inward, crushed by invisible forces. Ships that had been sailing smoothly suddenly spun out of control as gravitational waves tore at them. Tormund stared at his tactical display. Red icons were appearing everywhere. Ships destroyed. Ships damaged. Ships disabled. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown weapons, War Chief. They appear to be manipulating gravitational fields." Before Tormund could respond, phase disruptors activated. Blue beams lanced out from the asteroids and struck Council ships. Shields flickered and died. Sensors went dark. Ships that had been ready for battle were suddenly blind and defenseless. And then the real attack began. Admiral Park Tahoe's first strike fleet emerged from behind the system's gas giant. 200 ships, led by the Eternal Dawn. They had been waiting there, hidden in the planet's radiation shadow, while the combined fleet focused on the decoy defense force. Captain Lee Junho sat in the command chair of the Eternal Dawn and felt the ship hum with power around him. This was the moment. This was what they had trained for. "All ships, attack Formation Delta," he ordered. "Target their command vessels. Make them hurt." The Terran fleet did not advance in formation. They spread out, each ship finding its own path, each captain making their own decisions. To Council eyes, it looked like chaos, like disorder, like weakness. It was none of those things. It was adaptation. Human ships darted between Council vessels, finding gaps in their lines. They struck at weak points, disabled critical systems, then moved on before the enemy could respond. They did not fight like the Council expected. They fought like wolves among sheep. War Chief Tormund tried to rally his forces. "All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. Form defensive sphere around the command vessels." But his orders took time to reach his fleet. They had to be translated into 23 different languages, approved by 23 different commanders, relayed through 23 different communication systems. By the time his ships began to respond, the humans had already moved. Dr. Choi Hana had been right. The combined fleet was a committee, and committees could not fight chaos. Captain Junho drove the Eternal Dawn straight at a Council battlecruiser. The enemy ship was 3 times his size, but its shields were down and its sensors were blind. Junho fired everything he had: missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds. The battlecruiser broke apart in a flower of fire. "Target destroyed," his weapons officer reported. "Find another." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships, smaller and fewer, were tearing into the mighty combined fleet. They took losses too. Junho saw the destroyer Indomitable vanish in a flash of light. The cruiser, relentless, was cut in half by enemy fire. Good ships, good people, gone, but they were winning. Colonel Shin Mirai and her surviving ships had regrouped. Now they came back into the fight, hitting the Council fleet from behind. The enemy was caught between 2 forces, confused and disorganized. War Chief Tormund saw his fleet dying around him. He had never experienced anything like this. He had fought dozens of species, won dozens of battles, and he had never felt this kind of fear. These humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They did not follow rules. They did not respect formations. They did not wait for orders. Each ship was independent, unpredictable, dangerous. They fought like they had nothing to lose. War Chief, his second-in-command, said urgently, "We must withdraw, regroup, and reassess." Tormund wanted to refuse. Korathi did not retreat, but he looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. He had lost nearly 1,000 ships in less than an hour. If he stayed, he would lose more. "All ships, tactical withdrawal," he ordered. The words tasted like poison. "Fall back to rally point 7. The combined fleet began to retreat. Ships turned and ran for the jump points that would take them out of the system. But Admiral Park had anticipated this. The jump points were mined. Council ships reached the escape routes and found them filled with explosives. Ships detonated. Others crashed into the debris. The orderly retreat became a panicked flight. By the time the combined fleet escaped the Velar system, they had lost nearly 2,500 ships, a quarter of their force. Gone. The humans had lost the Velar colony. The stations were destroyed. The settlements were burned. 50,000 civilians were dead or displaced, but they had won the battle. News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The mighty combined fleet had been beaten. The humans had stood against impossible odds and prevailed. On Terra Prime, people celebrated in the streets. Chancellor Kim Yuna addressed the Empire. "Today, we proved that we will not be conquered," she said. "Today, we showed the galaxy what humanity can do." But Admiral Park did not celebrate. He stood in his command center and stared at the casualty reports. 63 ships destroyed, 18,000 lives lost. And this was just the first battle. Captain Lee Junho contacted him from the Eternal Dawn. "Admiral, we hurt them badly." "We did," Park agreed. "But they will be back. And next time, they will not underestimate us. Let them come." Park looked at the young captain's face on the screen. He saw the determination there, the fire, the absolute refusal to surrender. "They will come," Park said, "and we will be ready." On Nexara Prime, High Arbiter Velonis received War Chief Tormund's report. He read it 3 times, certain there was some mistake. There was no mistake. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" Ambassador Kethris had no answer. None of them did. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained order through overwhelming force. No one had ever stood against them like this. The humans had changed everything. Velonis felt the cold grip of fear, but he pushed it down. He was High Arbiter. He would not show weakness. "Summon more fleets," he ordered. "Call in all our allies, every ship we have." He looked at his council with burning eyes. "If the humans want war, we will give them war. We will bury them in ships. We will drown them in fire. We will make them regret the day they defied us." The council members nodded, but Velonis saw the doubt in their eyes. The war had just begun. And already, everything had changed. The war spread like fire across the frontier. High Arbiter Velonis kept his promise. He called in every alliance, every favor, every debt the Council was owed. Ships came from the far corners of the galaxy. Ancient species that had not fought in centuries sent their fleets. Within 2 weeks, the combined fleet had grown to 15,000 vessels. But Admiral Park Teho did not wait to be attacked. On Cycle 34, a Terran strike force appeared in the Kelleran system and destroyed a Council supply depot. They were gone before reinforcements arrived. On Cycle 36, 3 human cruisers ambushed a Council convoy carrying weapons to the front lines. Every ship was destroyed. On Cycle 38, a lone Terran destroyer slipped into a Council staging area and launched missiles into the fuel storage facilities. The explosions could be seen from orbit. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck without warning and vanished without trace. They used tactics the Council considered dishonorable: ambushes, deception, hit-and-run attacks. War Chief Tormund called them cowards and animals. But the council was bleeding. Commander Yoon Dae-sung sat at the center of this shadow war. His intelligence network fed him information, and he turned that information into death. He knew where the council's ships were going before they got there. He knew what they were carrying. He knew their routes, their schedules, their weaknesses. The Morath convoy leaves Nexus Station in 6 hours, he told Admiral Park. 40 transport ships. Light escort. They are carrying replacement parts for the fleet's shield generators. Without those parts? Park asked. Their shields operate at reduced capacity. Perhaps 60% effectiveness. Park smiled grimly. The Third Strike Group intercepted the convoy and destroyed it completely. The Morath Collective was furious. They had lost valuable ships and received nothing in return. They began to question why they were fighting this war at all. Yoon made sure to encourage those questions. His agents whispered in Morath ears. Why die for the Council? What has the Council ever done for you? They denied you representation for 300 years. They treat you like servants. And now they send your ships to be destroyed by humans. The whispers spread. The Morath were not the only ones listening. Chancellor Kim Yuna opened another front. Not military. Diplomatic. She sent secret messages to species that had suffered under Council rule. The Frelani worlds, who had been threatened with sanctions for minor trade violations. The Orlani Confederation, whose colony rights had been denied for generations. The Thessan Republic, whose cultural practices had been outlawed by Council decree. We do not ask you to fight for us. Yuna's messages said. We only ask you to consider whether the Council truly serves your interests. Look at what they are doing. Well, thank you for watching, and also see into the 17 hours. Look at the destruction they are causing, and ask yourself, is this the future you want? Some species listened. The Frelani closed their borders to Council military traffic. The Orlani refused to send additional ships. Small cracks, but cracks could become fractures. High Arbiter Velonis saw his coalition weakening and grew desperate. He needed a victory, something decisive, something that would remind the galaxy of Council power. War Chief Tormund gave him one. Hynam IV was a small colony on the edge of Terran space. 2 million people lived there, mostly farmers and miners. They had a small defense militia, but no real military presence. They were not a strategic target. Tormund chose them anyway. His fleet appeared in orbit without warning. He broadcast a message to the colony. People of Hynam IV. You have 1 hour to evacuate your settlements. After that, we will begin orbital bombardment. This is the price of your empire's defiance. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who stand against the Council. The colonists tried to evacuate, but there was no time. 1 hour was not enough to move 2 million people. The bombardment began exactly on schedule. Tormund's ships rained fire on the planet's surface. Cities were flattened. Farms were incinerated. People who had been eating breakfast, or going to work, or playing with their children, simply ceased to exist. When it was over, Hynam IV was a graveyard. The atmosphere was choked with ash. The oceans boiled. 2 million lives had been erased. Tormund broadcast the destruction across the galaxy. This is what happens to those who defy the Council, he declared. Surrender now, or watch your worlds burn. He expected fear. He expected the humans to finally understand that they could not win. He expected them to beg for peace. He was wrong. On Terra Prime, people watched the footage of Hynam IV's destruction. They saw the cities burn. They saw the death tolls rise. They heard War Chief Tormund's threats, and something changed. Fear turned to rage. Sorrow turned to fury. The grief of 2 million deaths became a fire that burned in every human heart. Recruitment centers that had been busy before were now overwhelmed. People who had volunteered now demanded to serve immediately. Factories that had been running double shifts now ran around the clock. Scientists who had been working hard now worked with desperate intensity. Chancellor Kim Yuna addressed the Empire. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "They murdered our people," she said. 2 million souls. Farmers, teachers, children. They killed them to make us afraid. They killed them to make us submit." She paused. "They failed. We will not surrender. We will not kneel. We will not give them the satisfaction of our fear. We will honor our dead by fighting harder than ever before. We will make sure their sacrifice was not in vain. To War Chief Tormund and the Galactic Council, I say this. You have awakened something you do not understand. You have united us in ways you cannot imagine. You think you have broken us. You have only made us stronger. We are coming for you." The Empire roared in response. The rage was universal. From Terra Prime to the frontier colonies, humans demanded vengeance. Captain Lee Junho received the news about Hanem IV while the Eternal Dawn was being repaired at Nova Sol. His sister had lived there. Her husband, her 2 children. His nephew had been 4 years old. His niece had been 7. They were gone. Junho stood alone in his quarters and stared at the photographs of his family. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply looked at their faces and made a promise. "I will find him," he said quietly, "and I will kill him." Admiral Park came to see him. "I heard about your sister," Park said. "I am sorry." "Thank you, Admiral." Park studied the young captain. He saw the pain there, buried deep. But he also saw something else. A cold, hard determination that had not been there before. "I need you focused," Park said. "I need you sharp. Can you do that?" "Yes, Admiral. We are planning something big. A strike at the heart of their command. I want the Eternal Dawn to lead it." Junho looked at him. "Tormund?" "Tormund." Something flickered in Junho's eyes. "I am ready." Park nodded. He turned to leave, then stopped. "Junho, vengeance is not enough. We are fighting for humanity's future. Do not forget that." "I have not forgotten. But I can want both." Park understood. He had felt the same way once, long ago. He left the captain to his thoughts. The war continued. More battles. More death. More destruction. The Council's fleet was larger, but the humans were relentless. Every time Tormund thought he had them cornered, they slipped away. Every time he claimed victory, they came back stronger. And now, species were beginning to defect. The Morath Collective announced their withdrawal from the combined fleet. They would not fight for a council that treated them as disposable. The Frelani worlds went further, offering to share intelligence with the Terrans. Even within the council itself, voices of dissent grew louder. High Arbiter Velonis silenced them. Dissenters were removed from their positions. Critics were arrested. He declared total war and demanded absolute loyalty. "We will destroy the humans or die trying," he announced. "There is no other option." He ordered the entire combined fleet to assemble for a final assault. Not on a colony. Not on a frontier system. On Sol itself. On Terra Prime. On the human homeworld. If they took Earth, the war was over. War Chief Tormund received his orders with grim satisfaction. This was what he had wanted from the beginning. No more skirmishes. No more games. A straight fight. All or nothing. He gathered his fleet. 12,000 ships. The largest armada in galactic history. "We go to end this," he told his captains. "We go to crush the humans once and for all." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for Sol, heading for the final battle. The sky above Earth filled with ships. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the command deck of the orbital defense station and watched the combined fleet emerge from hyperspace. 12,000 vessels. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers. They spread across the void like a swarm of metal locusts, blotting out the stars. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history, and it had come to destroy his home. Park opened a channel to his fleet. 500 ships. Everything humanity had left. They were outnumbered 24-1. "All hands," he said. "This is Admiral Park. You know why we are here. You know what we are defending. Behind us is Earth. 8 billion people. Our families. Our friends. Our children. Everything we are. And everything we hope to be. He paused. We cannot retreat. We cannot surrender. We can only fight. So that is what we will do. We will fight with everything we have. We will make them pay for every kilometer. We will show them what it means to attack humanity's home. He looked at the faces of his crew, at the ships under his command, at the blue planet turning slowly below. Today, we write our story. Today, we show the galaxy who we are. Today, we stand for humanity. He straightened his shoulders. All ships, battle stations. May fortune favor the brave. The combined fleet advanced in perfect formation. War Chief Tormund stood on the bridge of the Conqueror's Pride and watched the human defenders prepare. 500 ships. Pathetic. This would be over in hours. Begin the attack, he ordered. Destroy everything. The battle began. Council ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams. Missiles. Kinetic rounds. The void between the fleets became a storm of death. Human ships exploded. Defense platforms disintegrated. The first line of defense crumbled, but the humans did not break. They fought back with desperate fury. Every ship that died took council vessels with it. Captains rammed their crippled ships into enemy lines. Gun crews kept firing until their weapons melted. Pilots flew suicide missions into enemy carriers. Admiral Park directed the battle from the defense station, moving his pieces like a chess master. He knew he could not win through strength. He had to win through will. 3rd Division. Hit their left flank. Draw them out of formation. 2nd Division. Target their supply ships. Cut off their ammunition. 1st Division. Hold the line. Hold it at all costs. His ships obeyed. They died, but they obeyed. Captain Lee Junho flew the Eternal Dawn into the heart of the enemy fleet. His ship was fast and heavily armed, and he used both advantages without mercy. He destroyed a council cruiser with a volley of gravity lances. He disabled a battleship with phase disruptors. He punched through their lines like a knife through cloth. But he was not fighting to destroy ships. He was looking for one ship in particular. Where is he? He demanded. Where is Tormund? His tactical officer scanned the enemy formation. There, Captain. Center of the fleet. The dreadnought, with the gold markings. Junho saw it. The Conqueror's Pride. Set course, Junho ordered. All power to engines and weapons. His first officer looked at him. Captain, that is suicide, probably. The Eternal Dawn turned and accelerated toward the enemy flagship. Council ships tried to intercept, but Junho was too fast, too skilled. He wove through their formation like a dancer, leaving destruction in his wake. Tormund saw him coming. He recognized the human flagship. So, the war chief growled. Their champion wants to face me. Let him come. The two ships closed on each other. The Conqueror's Pride opened fire with its main batteries. The Eternal Dawn took hits but kept coming. Junho fired back, targeting the dreadnought's weapon systems. Shields failing, his officer reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. We do not need much more. Get me close. The Eternal Dawn drove forward, absorbing punishment that should have destroyed it twice over. But Junho had reinforced the bow, sacrificed everything else for this one charge. At point-blank range, he fired his last Prometheus warhead. The explosion was blinding. The Conqueror's Pride's shields collapsed. Its hull was torn open. The great dreadnought listed and burned, but it was not dead. Boarding parties, Junho ordered. All Marines to the shuttles. We finish this in person. He led the assault himself. 100 Marines against the crew of an enemy flagship. They cut through the airlock and fought their way inside. Corridor by corridor. Room by room. Step by step. Junho killed without mercy. He thought of his sister. He thought of his nephew and niece. He thought of 2 million people who had died because Tormund wanted to send a message. Now Junho had a message of his own. He reached the bridge. The doors were sealed. He placed charges and blew them open. War Chief Tormund was waiting for him. The Korathi was huge, 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor. He held a massive war axe in his hands. "Human," Tormund said. "You fight well, but you cannot defeat me. I have killed 1,000 warriors stronger than you." Junho raised his rifle. "I am not here to defeat you. I am here to kill you." He fired. Tormund moved faster than something that big should be able to move. He deflected the shots with his axe and charged. The fight was brutal. Junho was faster, but Tormund was stronger. The war chief's axe cut through Junho's armor, drawing blood. Junho's shots scored hits but did not penetrate Tormund's thick hide. They fought across the burning bridge, through smoke and sparks, and the screams of the dying. Tormund caught Junho with a blow that sent him crashing into a console. The war chief stood over him, axe raised. "You fought well," Tormund admitted. "For a human." Junho looked up at him. Blood ran down his face. His armor was shattered. He could barely move, but he smiled. "You are right," he said. He triggered the dead man's switch in his hand. The explosive charges his marines had placed throughout the ship activated. The Conqueror's pride exploded from the inside. In the battle outside, the Council fleet saw their flagship die. War Chief Tormund was gone. Their command structure was gone. Their leader was gone. And the consensus-based command system that Dr. Choi Hana had identified as their weakness became their doom. With no war chief to coordinate them, the 23 species of the combined fleet could not agree on what to do. Some wanted to continue the attack. Some wanted to retreat. Some wanted to surrender. They argued while human ships tore into them. The council formation broke. Ships fled in all directions. Others were destroyed trying to hold their ground. The mighty combined fleet became a disorganized mob. Admiral Park saw the tide turning and pressed his advantage. "All ships, attack. Drive them back. For Earth. For humanity." The human fleet surged forward. They were still outnumbered, but the enemy was broken. Ship after ship fell to their guns. By the time it was over, half the combined fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest fled into hyperspace. Scattering across the galaxy, Earth was saved. Admiral Park allowed himself one moment of relief. Then he ordered search and rescue for survivors. There would be time for celebration later. Now there was work to do. They found Captain Lee Junho in the wreckage of the Conqueror's Pride. He was barely alive. The explosion had thrown him clear, but his injuries were severe. Park visited him in the hospital on Terra Prime. The captain was unconscious, wrapped in bandages, and connected to machines. The doctors said he would live, but it would be a long recovery. "You did well," Park said quietly. "You saved us all." 3 days later, Chancellor Kim Yuna sent the Council her terms. The Galactic Council would recognize Terran sovereignty. There would be no restrictions on human expansion or technology. Species that had supported humanity would receive favorable treatment. War criminals would face justice. But Yuna did not demand the Council's destruction. She offered them a choice. "The old ways are finished," she told High Arbiter Velonis. "Control and stagnation will no longer be tolerated. The galaxy can grow together, with all species free to develop and expand, or the Council can refuse and fade into irrelevance. The choice is yours." Velonis, broken by defeat and abandoned by half his coalition, resigned. The Council voted to accept humanity's terms. A new era began. 1 week later, Captain Lee Junho woke up. Admiral Park was there when he opened his eyes. "What happened?" Junho asked. "We won," Park said. "The Council surrendered. Earth is safe. Humanity is free." Junho lay still for a long moment. Then he turned his head and looked out the window. Earth hung in the darkness, blue and green and beautiful. "My sister," he said. "I know. I am sorry." Junho was silent. Tears ran down his face. He had won his vengeance, but it did not bring his family back. Nothing would bring them back. "Was it worth it?" he asked. Park looked at the planet that had been saved, at the billions of lives that would continue, at the future that remained open. "Yes," he said. "It was worth it." Junho nodded slowly. He did not feel victory. He felt loss. But he also felt something else. A quiet certainty that what they had done mattered. That the sacrifice meant something. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we rebuild. We grow. We take our place in the galaxy." Park put a hand on the captain's shoulder. "We live." Outside the window, Earth turned slowly in the sunlight. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. They had stood against impossible odds and prevailed. They had earned their place among the stars, not as subjects, not as supplicants, as equals. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity was just getting started.